Identity drives decision, and our decisions drive our action, and our action drives our results. So if your identity is unlovable, if your identity is I'm never fully supported, if your identity is I'm not someone who gets what they truly want, or I'm unworthy, you will continue to see everything that comes into your world through that lens. Hi, I'm Amira Alvarez. I'm the founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman, and thank you for joining us on this podcast. Here today, we are talking about one of the 7 shadows of success that I have identified when working with uber, ultra successful, driven, ambitious women. And this shadow of success is called the 4 out of 5 problem. This is where 4 out of 5 things in your life are going swimmingly, going great, going amazing. And yet there's this 5th thing that is not so great. And when you slow down and you start evaluating and assessing your life, you recognize that this is something that has been a problem for a while and is important to you and causes you a fairly deep level of pain. And yet you generally push it to the side, push it out of view to deal with the more quote unquote pressing things in your life. And you continue as is, not dealing with it because basically, let's face it, you have a great life. 4 out of 5 things are amazing. Now, let's be clear. It might be 6 out of 7, 8 out of 12. The numbers don't matter per se. It's just that on the aggregate, if you will, things are amazing in your freaking life. And yet there are some places where if you truly pause and stopped and thought about it, and you know it, it's like under the surface. It's a current that's just running underneath the surface. It's a problem, and you don't actually know how to deal with it, and you keep pushing it aside because you don't know how to deal with it. You don't have the toolkit to attend to it in a way that you think you're going to be successful with, so you don't look at it. And that becomes a pattern and actually quite often a lifelong problem. If it's often something that's been with you for a very long time. So when we think about it being with you for a very long time, let's talk about where this originated. How did it come to pass? Well, oftentimes it's from early childhood. It probably got reinforced in your young adult life throughout your adult life. Most people, when I ask them, what memory does this connect with? What pops in your head when you think of this problem? Don't overthink this. If you're doing this, if you're listening and you're like, okay, I'm gonna ask myself that question, which would be a very good thing for you to do. Most people overthink it and think, oh, that's not it, or that's not it, or that doesn't relate to it, or that doesn't make sense. And yet it does. So what just popped into your head when you think of an early memory of this occurring? So sometimes people have memories that are in young adult life, teenage life, and that's as far as they can go back. They see this pattern and they're like, that's the first time I remember having this experience or having this challenge. And we can start there for sure. But if you have access to your early childhood, I would ask yourself, what is the earliest memory that you have regarding this issue? And something will pop for you because that's where you made this mean X, Y, and Z. Now, for everyone, it's slightly different. But let's use an actual example. So let's say everything's great in your life, but your primary intimate relationship is not so great. It doesn't feel connected anymore. Maybe you're not having sex. Maybe you're not having great sex. Maybe you're thinking about a divorce. Maybe you've never had a satisfying relationship. Maybe you can't find love, something like that. Okay. There is something in that realm. If this is not yours, keep listening. It's fine if it's not yours. Build the analogy here to what's going on for you. I think it works best to look at this material with an example. So let's say you are not satisfied in your relationship and the person you're with, it doesn't feel like you're being nourished in that relationship, supported, loved, fully seen, fully heard, taken care of, even protected. I know that's an interesting one for, very competent women in the world. Like, I don't need protection. Like, I work out and I make my money and I can take care of myself. But there is often a core element that if we have a feminine essence, which not every, I mean, everyone has a feminine essence, but there's degrees to which we have more or less of that. And sometimes we're not tapped into it. But there's an aspect of ourselves that really wants to be protected. Now, men have this too, because men have a feminine essence as well. The feminine essence in us wants to be seen, adored, attended to, protected. It's the receptive one in the relationship. Okay. And both men and women have a female and male essential self. Okay. Essence. So let's say you're not getting that in your relationship. Well, then you would look at what was the first memory that you have of not having that experience of being fully seen, heard, attended to, protected in your life. Something's going to pop. When that pops for you, please take a moment and go, oh, wow. Then in this moment, I made it mean that blank. What did you make it mean? When you were a young child and you couldn't make your mother God or your father God wrong because they were where protection came from, love came from, they were the authorities in your life, you subconsciously, as a strategy for survival, had to make yourself wrong because you couldn't make them wrong. So you said, it must mean X about me. Maybe it means I'm unlovable. Maybe it means I'm not worthy of a great relationship. Maybe I made it mean it's dangerous to show my true self or show my true needs or let my heart run wild. There are all sorts of things that we could have made that mean. Yours will be unique to you. Identify that. So if you don't do anything about this, so you have this level of awareness now, and that's great. But if you don't do anything about it, it will continue to show up in your life, just like it's been showing up regularly in your life up until now. So the awareness of it is huge. It lets you know, okay, I need to watch for this in my life. That's huge. But you actually have to do something that's going to change how you respond. So, for instance, I was talking to a particular woman on a Zoom call, and she was sharing with me that she continues to get into relationships with team members. So, in her business, I gave you a personal life example, but this happens all the time in our business. And actually, it can happen in both places. Okay. So, let's say you have relationship issues, you're going to want to look at how that's showing up in your business as well. Because the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. Okay. It's not like, oh, in my business, I'm a different human. I am the same human in my personal life and in my business life, even if, maybe I'm more relaxed here or more professional here. You're coming with your same patterns, your same issues, your same perspective, worldview, the lens through which you see the world. So, in any case, she was talking about how she continually hires people, whether contractors or full-time employees, that let her down, that actually are not at the level that she needs to be fully supported. And so there is a pattern there that needs to be unpacked, really seen, so that she can do it differently in the future. And oftentimes, if you don't really see this and make different choices in response to this, then you will continue to have these problems. So if you might have heard the expression, same devil, new level, right? You get to a much higher level in your life or your business, but you have the same core wound. You have the same issue that is coming up. Your belief patterns are driving your decisions in the same way until you do something different about it. And so you will continue to wonder why X, Y, and Z keeps happening in my life. I try really hard. I'm super competent. I'm a good human, but this is still happening. Why is that? And it's because we have this core wound that is really keeping us locked up in a standard pattern for us that seems right, but the outcomes that come from it do not meet the desires that we have. So let's talk about what happens when you actually have the awareness about what this problem is, where it got created, and how to unlock it in your life, right? So that it's not this unconscious thing that's driving you, but that you have agency over it. So in that question that I just posed, the answer is. So the solution and the answer are the same thing here. So what I'm saying is it unlocks everything for you. You then are no longer controlled by it, but you have agency over it. Okay. Now, does it mean that you will never be confronted by it again? No, you will, but you'll have a different response to it. Okay. You'll have a different response to it. So when you unlock it, and unlocking it takes not just a level of awareness, but actually living differently to become a woman who no longer is that person. So that's a mouthful, but basically, this is an identity issue. We can talk about it with words, unpack it together. We can recognize the pattern and really see it. But the things that change are about holding yourself to a higher standard on the field of play. And doing that is a little bit challenging for individuals because the worldview that you have, the lens through which you're looking, is based on this old identity. So you're going to see everything through that lens, and it's going to keep you locked into making decisions and taking action from that perspective. So identity drives decision. Our identity, how we see ourselves, drives our decisions, and our decisions drive our action, and our action drives our results. So if your identity is unlovable, if your identity is I'm never fully supported, if your identity is I'm not someone who gets what they truly want, or I'm unworthy of full love and attention, or whatever the storyline is there, you will continue to see everything that comes into your world through that lens. Someone else has a different lens, will see the same thing differently. Let's take an example of going to a restaurant with your girlfriend. And afterwards she says, "Wasn't that waiter just the nicest person you've ever met?" And you're like, "Wow, that waiter was so rude and didn't give us enough attention." Whatever. Simple example. You've had the experience of interacting in the world and having a totally different reaction to it than someone else. Maybe it was you thinking that something was great and someone else complaining about it. Same experience, different response to it. We know that this happens all the time, but we think, because we are the center of our universe, we think that the way we're looking at something is true, only true, that's the only reality, when in fact it's not. And we build our reality through our identity, and our identity is the lens we see the world in. So identity drives decisions. Something comes into our world, we see it in a particular way, we respond to it, we decide how to think, feel, act in response to it through our identity. Okay, then our decisions drive our actions, and our actions drive our outcomes. Okay, so you can see how this could play out again and again and again for you. When looking at what happens if you don't unpack this, very simply put, you're going to keep recreating the outcomes that you don't want in your life. As smart as you are, intelligence has nothing to do with this. I wish it did. I wish, like, being super smart, super on it, super capable was the key that unlocked this. But sadly, it's not. The thing that will really unlock this is if you lean into it and you're able to make different decisions on the field of play. And oftentimes that's, like I said, is hard because you're looking at the world through a particular lens. This is why it's super important to have people around you who can give you a different perspective on this, whether that is a group of really, super powerful women who are working through the same concepts, have the same framework for looking at this, or a mentor, an advisor, someone outside of you in order to break free of your own lens through which you're seeing the world. So I think the next thing that you need to look at in regards to this 4 out of 5 problem is, how do you know when it's the right time to really dig into this? And quite frankly, when it's when it's truly painful for you. And oftentimes women earlier in their lives are much more involved in, building the business, getting the success, doing all the things. That's their main priority. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am ambitious. I love that. I love success. It's something that has been a big part of who I am. But at some point, unlocking the main core wound issue for me was more important than any success that I was going for. The success was no longer filling me up. And I had to get over my fear that if I did it differently, if I really dealt with this, if I did it differently, that I would lose my ambition or lose my success. For me, the pain of not having what I wanted, it got to a level of being intolerable. And I no longer was willing to accept a good or even great life, but not an exquisite life. I wanted exquisite. I wanted absolutely 100% fully lit up in all the areas of my life. And I had to start. I just had to start. So I focused on solving this issue. And when I unlocked this one issue, there was like a domino effect. Unlocked all these other things that had been tolerable, but not like enough pain for me to deal with, like not having spaciousness in my life, being stressed more often than I wanted, not feeling great in my body. So when I dealt with the core thing, that the core wound that was causing the 4 out of 5 issue, and I got that, I was like, and I manifested, in my case, this was manifesting an exquisite relationship, like nothing that I had ever experienced before, but I knew at my core level was what I desired. When that happened, it unlocked all these other things. I say that so that you know that there's a positive outcome in multiple areas of your life by unlocking this core wound area. So if you're challenged by figuring out what that one area is, it's something that, we can work on. You're welcome to book a call with me to have a conversation about this, and we can delve into this in a little bit more detail if you're interested in working on an issue like this. But the thing I want you to know is that once you identify it and you have the courage to work through it and you change how you're behaving on the field of play, the other things in your life will unlock as well. And you'll be confronted without a doubt, but the unlock happens on multiple levels. And it's super important to find that one thing that is the unlock for everything else.